Or from music mogul to an inmate, Sean Diddy Combs is denied bail on charges of sex racketeering.
TMZ has been following this case for months now, and Charles Lati-Baudier is joining us to dive deeper into what is happening. Charles, I mean, shocking is an understatement when you hear the details of this case. What are your thoughts after hearing the indictment yesterday?
Good morning, Brian and Natalie. I got to tell you, my thoughts reading the 14-page indictment yesterday were that there are a lot of people in Hollywood who are probably worried about which Diddy parties they were at and what was going on. That's not to say that they were necessarily even involved in any of the things that are alleged by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But if you're at that party and it turns out that that's when he set up one of these freak-off, that it was going on in another room and you didn't know about it, there's a good chance that you're going to be called by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And certainly if you were involved, you would get a call because they're going to want to know everything you want to know and may even want you to be a witness. I just think, we're just starting to scratch the surface of what this case, this case is going to touch and involve. And the feds have said that this remains an open investigation. There could be more charges for Diddy. There could be more charges for other people involved. And usually the way this works is once they find out other people are involved or were witnesses, they bring them in and they sort of lean on them. And it's sort of like, you're going to cooperate with us, or there's a possibility that you could face charges. So this is going to be a slow developing a case here because we're just getting started, and I don't see how this trial begins anytime before next year.
Now, there are a lot of wild allegations in those documents that came out yesterday.
You've probably seen the recent buzz online about arrest warrants being issued for Hollywood stars linked to seeing Diddy Combs. Yes, you've heard that correctly. Arrest warrants. Hollywood elites and Diddy all in the same sentence.
1,000 bottles of baby oil. What surprised you the most about what you read yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, that, Brian, was definitely an alarming graph of the indictment when you read that when they raided, I believe it was the Miami home where they found 1,000 bottles of, and they said that these were items that were used at the freak-offs. There were also large amounts of drugs, they said. So, they said that the house, according to the feds, that was stocked for these parties that were going on. And then to read their description of how Diddy, as they say, lured women into joining these parties. And they say that he would meet them or lure them, get to know them and lure them in, thinking they would think that there was going to be a romantic relationship with him. And then it would turn out that they would be at these freak where they would be forced to have or drugged and with male prostitutes that he was bringing in. And that's one of the counts that he's facing also is the transportation of individuals for a purpose of prostitution. So really alarming allegations laid out in court. Diddy, of course, has pled not guilty to all of it. And then the real kicker for him at the end of the day was that the judge said you will be held without bail. And that means however long it takes for this trial to begin, he will be in a federal detention facility in Brooklyn, and not a very nice one. In fact, a fairly notorious one. So you got to figure it. He wants out of there, and he wants out as soon as possible.
We're in this era right now, Charles, of men with power falling from grace in Hollywood. And when I think about Harvey Weinstein, that was an open secret in Hollywood for a very long time about what he was doing with victims. Was this also the case with P.
The whole thing really took off after a video hit YouTube with a headline that made everyone stop and stare. Joe Rogan reveals arrest warrants for Hollywood elites involved with Diddy. That's the kind of title that grabs attention. Who wouldn't want to click on that?
Knew this was going on?
I will say this: there were always been whispers about his power and how he wielded that power. But I can't say I heard any whispers about these freaks, and it's really alarming. You know, we were talking about it yesterday. One, these parties had a lot of individuals. In fact, the U.S. Attorney's Office says that the parties would sometimes go on for days. So there are a lot of individuals involved, and yet, and they say this has been going on for more than 10 years, and yet we didn't hear about that. So that means that all the people that were involved, according to the feds, that he managed to keep them all quiet, that nobody would speak about it. And that does sort of speak to the kind of power he wielded and the fear that people had of him. We're also talking about the fact that the beating of Cassie, which was captured on the hotel surveillance video, that was, 6 years ago. And
alleged when Combs
nobody knew about it. Nobody heard about it. Think about all the people that were at the hotel who may have known about it, people who saw the surveillance video and never spoke about it. And like you said, we're in an era where when things like that happen, people speak out about it. So the fact that no one did, and that it only took this, really Cassie's lawsuit before any of this started coming out, it does kind of speak to the power that he wielded, and that the fact that nobody wanted to cross him.
And Charles, what do you think happens next in this case? Members of Sean Combs' family have been ordered to give up their passports. He's currently in jail. What do you think happens from here?
Well, his attorneys, the first thing that's going to happen is today, his attorneys are going back into court. They have appealed the bail ruling. And like I said, I'm sure he wants out, and that's their first job right now is to get him out. They've offered a $50 million package for bail. That was rejected yesterday, but they're going to take another swing at it today. And then after that,
The video quickly went viral, and it was easy to see why. It had all the ingredients of an internet sensation. They'd named celebrities, a touch of scandal, and a hint of conspiracy. Within a week, it was flooded with likes and comments, with people eager to find out which Hollywood stars might be involved. But as the views kept growing, some things just didn't seem to add up.
you know, look, you know, he did surrender his passport to his lawyer. We should say the way his team put it out originally, they made it sound like he had turned it over to the authorities. He had turned over his passport back in April to his lawyer, as did his children and his mother. And their point was they wanted to make the case to the court that, look, we're cooperating here. He is not a flight risk. And they feel like the U.S. Attorney's Office undermined that by raiding his hotel on Monday night and arresting him when they say he was in New York because he was more than willing to surrender. In fact, the plan was for him to surrender on Tuesday, and then for some reason the feds decided to arrest him Monday night. Diddy's attorneys think they did that so that it would look like he wasn't cooperating, and then the judge would deny him bail, which, as it turns out, is what happened.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for your thoughts on this morning. You guys always have so much information behind the scenes there. It is 7:13 a.m. in Los Angeles. Thanks for waking up early with us.
Absolutely. We're up early.
It turns out the video wasn't quite what it appeared to be. In reality, it was based on pure speculation, a rumor that quickly spiraled out of control. So, let's break it down and see what's really happening.
My next guest just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs and parties. His name is Courtney Burgess, and he says a friend gave him 11 flash drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter. And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy freak-offs or parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is fake. Courtney Burgess told his story on a podcast before he told the grand jury today, and after he told the grand jury, and I mean immediately after, he booked it over to my set, and he and his attorney talked to me. I should tell you that he was very limited in how much detail he could go into about his testimony. And because the 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos were allegedly victims, We know who they are, but we will not be naming them, famous or not. Here now is my conversation with Courtney Burgess and Ariel Mitchell, who's his attorney, beginning with the question of whether the participants in the video even knew they were being recorded. Were there any cameras in places where you'd assume privacy, like bathrooms?
Well, I've never been in this house, but the picture, yes. That's where it took place, yes.
First, let's take a look at the video itself. It was made to feel really convincing. It kicked off with clips of Joe Rogan discussing Diddy's recent legal troubles on his podcast. Then it added fuel to the fire by cutting to news footage about Diddy's arrest, his ongoing legal battles, and even search warrants being carried out at his properties.
We're aware of surreptitious cameras that were recording in private places like bathrooms.
I didn't see the cameras. You could tell how the person was angled. I knew that it was a camera there because I was there. I wasn't there. I don't know if the person was too tall, he was holding it or whatever, but I wasn't there.
May I ask you this, Courtney? And Ariel, you can jump in on this as well, but I want to hear from Courtney first. Your home was raided by federal authorities, and I assume it is because of this material. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that. They just went to every one of them looking for me. They said, the paperwork said the 24th, that I had to be there the 28th, and then it was the 27th. I said, I can't make it there, that's tomorrow. So I don't know. From the look of it, it was 4 days.
And I want to be specific. When we talk about a raid, we're talking about when a subpoena is served for documents, a search warrant or an arrest warrant. In this situation, Mr. Burgess was not in any way, shape, or form had a search warrant or an arrest warrant issued for him. It was just them serving a subpoena. So when the federal government needs to serve a subpoena, they use the Marshal Service to come to all of your residences if you have more than one residence. So in this situation, they sent marshals to all of Mr. Burgess's residences, and that was somehow construed or understood or turned into a raid, but he did not face a raid. It was just to serve him the subpoena.
Ariel, do you believe that the subpoenas were issued and executed based on the federal authorities' knowledge that these flash drives existed and had this kind of compromising material?
I think it was based on statements that Mr. Burgess made in a prior interview.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that.
They also threw in clips from press conferences featuring Diddy's lawyers, federal prosecutors, and legal representatives. It was a powerful mix of real footage, carefully edited to make it seem like something big was about to happen. But here's the key point. There was no mention of arrest warrants for other celebrities, despite what the video implied.
Given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appear to
Let
be.
me rephrase it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appeared to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized.
Yeah.
Meaning this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
2 to 3. Also on the flash drives, Courtney, was what looked to be a manuscript written by, it appears to be a woman who had taken Kim Porter's private journals and had written a book. Is that accurate?
We don't know.
I don't know
how. Yeah.
I don't know how, who wrote it, put it together, but it was from her when I spoke to her.
And let's not forget the thumbnail. Whoever made this video knew exactly how to grab attention. It showed images of Joe Rogan and even Jennifer Lopez, making it look like they were in handcuffs, being led away by federal agents. Of course, it wasn't real. The images were heavily edited, maybe even AI generated, to create a false impression. But with just one look at that thumbnail, people couldn't help but click.
What you received on the flash drives, was it the completed book or was it notes from Kim Porter that later were made into a book?
It was completed. It's only 60,
Okay.
only about 54 pages. It was
Sure, and in the beginning, it says, Kim made me promise that if something happened to her, I would make sure this book became public to the world. The way Sean moved, I knew that was a promise I would have to fulfill. Kim knew I was a woman of my word, and this book was going to make it to print. So it sounds like it is a woman who wrote up the notes from Kim Porter. Does that sound accurate?
It's how you read it, yes. I haven't even read the book.
Do you know who the woman is?
No.
And to be clear, he received it in its complete form. So I think just to make sure we have some clarity here, the manuscript that Mr. Burgess received was already in its complete form. It's not that he edited it or changed anything.
Got it.
He did give it to someone
Makes
else
sense.
who then edited it, but that's not how he received it.
Okay, so Ariel, did your client, Courtney, receive the book from the woman who seems to have written it, saying, I'm a woman of my word, and this book is going to make it to print?
I don't know if he received it from a man or a woman. He can answer that.
I received it from a man. I tell you, somebody she was dating.
Do you know if the notes from the book really were from Kim Porter?
It was, yes, because I spoke to her probably like 6 hours before I received it.
You spoke to Kim Porter?
Yes.
So Kim Porter.
Just saying hi.
Okay.
Just saying hi.
Okay, Ariel, go ahead and give me clarity on the timeline.
No, I'm trying to get him to provide clarity of, was there a conversation with her?
No, I was
or
talking to the person and he said, hold up, this is Courtney, be right here. Let me say something to him. He said, I know him, put me on speaker. Then that's how we end up speaking.
And then later, somebody else came and brought you the manuscript.
Right.
So, why did people buy into it? Well, it taps into our natural curiosity about celebrity scandals and hidden secrets. The idea of famous figures secretly being caught up in something shady, facing legal trouble, it's just an irresistible story that draws people in.
Before I left ATL.
To the best of your knowledge, Courtney, do you believe that the manuscript is truly based on Kim Porter's diaries? Because there is a lot of dialogue in there. It is pages and pages of actual dialogue, which, I mean, I can't remember breakfast today, let alone dialogue from 5, 10, 15, and 20 years ago.
I guess this is a woman's scar. You understand? Maybe, what she been through. It's, I'm not a woman, so I'm just going by how I got female friends and relatives. They always come to the house scoring because what went on in their relationship. And when you're scoring, you can't forget it.
Important to stop down here for a moment and note again that Sean Combs is accused. He has not been convicted of any crimes. And so far, everything against him is an allegation until it is proven in a court of law and a jury either decides or he decides to sign a plea deal to any of these crimes. But at this point in the story, Sean Combs is not guilty of any crimes. He is currently under indictment. He is currently being held on on bail. But if you're at all curious about how Courtney Burgess feels about Diddy today, I asked him about that too. And here's what he had to say. Your lawyer just said the story the tapes tell are the story of Diddy from the last several decades. And I know that you've known Diddy for a very long time. Can you describe what that story is based on what you now know to be true, the last several decades of Diddy's behavior and the reason he's now sitting in lockup?
I think I've been doing it for 35 years. I think we probably entered the music business at the same time. He entered with Uptown, I entered into Big Beat, Atlantic. At the time, I guess he was ambitious. He was then from ambitious went to doing anything, and then from doing anything to didn't care about nobody, who he could beat, and then he ended up turning into Lucifer. Today, I look at him. I know y'all call him Diddy or Puffy. I call him Lucifer.
And then you add Joe Rogan into the mix as the whistleblower, the guy supposedly revealing Hollywood's hidden secrets. That's like the cherry on top, making the whole thing even more enticing.
She said she would pay off someone to basically testify in her behalf in millions. So what do you think that does to this case, if anything?
Okay, now that was for a different case. It's not for the federal case, it's for a civil case. She's suing him for money for rape and for distributing a tape of them raping her. It could do a couple of things. I think it affects her credibility. Although I also think it affects the credibility of all people who have brought it out, because one of the refrains by his defense has been that, these people these are meritless claims. So that is a problem. But I can also say this. She may have been telling, and this was her ex-boyfriend, boyfriend at the time, that I'll pay you to testify, and basically $3 million. He might be reluctant to testify because he's afraid of what repercussions might come, not only from Diddy and his entourage, but also from Diddy supporters. We know that they've come out and been very vocal in favor of Diddy. So though that money could be for him to come in and testify and get over his fear of testifying.
But I also think the timing is something else, because that kind of message getting out there when you have a trial for criminal charges in federal court also says to people, hey, you can't believe what these victims are saying. They're making stuff up against me.
You've got things on both sides. Remember when they released that beating video?
Yes, the one that they're saying leaked.
Diddy's attorneys are claiming that the government leaked that to turn the tide against him. They may have had a hand in releasing this information to sort of, turn the tide back for him. So
exactly.
It's a lot of games being
There's
played.
a lot of stuff coming up in Emmanuel.
Here's the catch. If arrest warrants really had been issued for Hollywood elites, it wouldn't just be some random YouTube video making the rounds. The story would be everywhere, front page headlines, covered by all major news outlets, and analyzed from every angle. But right now, not a single credible source has backed up any of these claims.
Based on the sex trafficking case against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs, we are learning tonight that additional charges could soon be forthcoming.
So that's according to sources who spoke with Fox 5's Lisa Evers. She joins us now with the exclusive details. Lisa?
Well, Stephen, Natasha, multiple sources tell me that a federal grand jury is hearing testimony from new witnesses, including some who are being flown in from out of state. Prosecutors are looking to bring more charges and additional co-defendants to the Sean Diddy Combs federal sex trafficking case. This comes as a judge ruled that an accuser trying to sue Combs cannot remain anonymous.
Fox 5 cameras were rolling to catch former Diddy associate Courtney Burgess as he walked with his attorney Ariel Mitchell into federal court to testify before a grand jury, hearing from witnesses about potential new charges. At the October 10th court hearing, lead prosecutor Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson cautioned that the trial timeline could be affected by a superseding indictment. That would make the case wider in scope and more complex, says attorney and former prosecutor Eric Faddis.
So the original indictment that has already been issued lists the charges against Diddy. What the federal government sometimes does when they're continuing their investigation is they'll do a subsequent indictment which is a superseding indictment. It usually amends and replaces the original indictment. And
not one. It's also important to note that the channel that posted this video has a disclaimer saying their content is for entertainment purposes only. So, they're not even pretending that what they post is factual. It's all part of the show, created to grab views and generate ad revenue.
Charges.
Combs' defense team has repeatedly stated they want a speedy trial. New charges and a superseding indictment could slow that down.
The trial's scheduled for May 2025. But if there are charges that add a completely new dimension to this case, which I think is reasonably likely, that could cause both sides to need more time to do investigation, locate additional witnesses, procure additional evidence.
New charges could also bring more people in as defendants, says Faddis.
There is a RICO case that is charged against Diddy. That necessarily contemplates a criminal enterprise, other affiliates, potentially other associates who could be roped in to this entire thing.
As the criminal case moves forward, the number of civil lawsuits against Diddy continues to grow. Now there are more than 24 accusers alleging they were drugged and sexually assaulted. This week, a federal judge ruled that a woman identified only as Jane Doe, who claimed Diddy allegedly raped her, must file paperwork with her real name by November 13th, or the suit would be dropped.
Even though the allegations might be private and sensitive, the general rule is to have that individual identified, and that's what the court is ordering here.
Former Diddy associate Courtney Burgess came out of court with his attorney Ariel Mitchell after testifying before the grand jury.
We both was in the music business for 30 years together.
Just to give testimony to the grand jury, he was subpoenaed by the court, so as we all know, if you don't answer a subpoena, the marshals will come to your house as they came to his house and they will bring you here.
Now, Combs, through his attorneys, has categorically denied all criminal and civil allegations. The U.S. attorney had a no comment on whether a federal grand jury is hearing new witnesses and evidence against Combs. But sources tell me charges may be just a couple of weeks away. Stephen, Natasha?
Wow, it just gets bigger and worse, it seems.
Yeah.
You know, all right.
Every week.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Thank you.
This whole situation really shows how quickly misinformation can spread online. It's the perfect mix: big names, a sensational headline, and the lure of a Hollywood scandal. People are naturally drawn to these kinds of stories, even when they're not completely true.
Judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male sex workers across state lines to take part in recorded sexual performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence. David Willis reports.
Among those present at the Manhattan courthouse, Sean Combs' 83-year-old mother, Janice, who earlier in the week sprang publicly to his defense.
Have you guys spoken to your father? Have you spoken to your father? Any messages?
And other family members, including his twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah.
Christian, have you spoken to your father?
Hey, straight ahead, dog, straight ahead.
One of hip-hop's biggest names, the man who shaped the sound and culture of an entire generation, has spent the last 3 weeks in jail. Raids by heavily armed agents on his homes in Miami and Los Angeles in March this year led to federal charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Combs, who is also facing a slew of civil lawsuits, has pleaded not guilty and blew kisses to family members in the courtroom before being led away. His lawyer has called the sexual activity described by prosecutors consensual. Combs' lawyer asked the judge to impose a gag order banning prosecutors from leaking evidence in the case to the media. Sean Combs is due to stand trial in May of next year. Prosecutors have said further charges may follow, but he already faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life in jail. David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
The line between reality and fiction has never been harder to see, especially with the tools available today. With AI and advanced editing software, it's simpler than ever to create a story that looks like news, even when it's just smoke and mirrors.
To be, and what effect will it have on the possibility that this trial may go in May of next year?
Well, I think that the superseding indictments, I don't know if they'll necessarily be new charges against P. Diddy, maybe, or, maybe more identifiable victims. But I think that you're also going to maybe potentially see some co-conspirators that are identified that, played a significant role in, this vast conspiracy that's taken place over the course of the last 30 years. So, with other defendants involved, that can also, Sean Combs will be in less control over when this trial goes and how it plays out.
Well, let's talk, though, about the fact the feds don't play. I mean, generally, they don't bring a case until they have their ducks in a row and the evidence ready to go. And so I have to believe that, yes, some of those things might cause delays, and it's a great defense team. But I also think the feds are well prepared with evidence on hand to proceed against him.
Oh, yeah. They took their time on this. When you think about the timeline here, the Cassie lawsuit was filed last November, and then the raids were in March. During that whole time, you've got to imagine that there is some pretty intense investigation that's going on in order to get search warrants that happen at the same time in 2 different houses and 2 different coasts. So by March, they already had a lot of information that many people, myself included, that was sealed at that time. Of course, that wasn't true. And they got more information, obviously from his 2 homes. So no, you're right, Ashley, the feds don't play, and they've taken a long time to get to this point, and they're not, having lots of press conferences running at the mouth either. They're going to let the indictment and then their work speak.
Yeah, and according to Emanuela's notes, today they did express the fact that they are ready to go. Whenever the judge puts a trial date, we're ready to go, Judge. So they're ready to go. They may be adding some stuff that could push it into the future, but as of right today, they said we're ready to go.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just talk really, really quickly about one of the things that happened yesterday in this case, and there was a big...
So, what's really happening with Diddy? It's true that he's facing some serious legal challenges. He's dealing with federal charges and accusations, which have put his career and personal actions under a lot of public scrutiny.
Truth or fake? Catalina Marchand de Abro is here in studio. Catalina, today's edition, you're discussing allegations about rapper and music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Take us through some of the fake news that's been circulating regarding the case.
The P. Diddy case continues to develop after the now disgraced music mogul was arrested in September over serious accusations, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, and prostitution, as Diddy faces a new wave of over 120 new sexual assault allegations. This affair has also been accompanied by a flood of misinformation on social media, including Bieber, who is at the heart of many speculations and conspiracy theories as to what happened at the beginning of his career when P. Diddy acted as Bieber's mentor and helped launch the pop star's career at the age of 15. Going viral on TikTok, Instagram, X, YouTube, you name it. This song that users say was released by Justin Bieber back in April and that has now resurfaced following P. Diddy's arrest in September. Here, viewed over 7 million times on this post on TikTok alone, but seen millions of times across all over the social media platforms. Let's take a short listen to this song that may sound like Justin Bieber. You can hear the lyrics of the song. Let's take a listen. So as you can see, the lyrics of the song allegedly include "Lost myself at a Diddy party," where the song appears to make reference to allegations of sexual abuse and other misconduct at the P. Diddy residence.
Is there any way then to prove the veracity of the song, Catalina?
Well, a song that sounds like Justin Bieber, but the song is likely fake. Firstly, there's no concrete evidence to prove the existence of this song, including no official confirmation from credible sources or news outlets. This song doesn't.
Despite all of this, there's no verified information linking other celebrities to Diddy's legal troubles like the video suggests. It's just an exaggerated rumor blown out of proportion to turn a real story into clickbait.
So I think it's pretty smart that the defense is not waiving their speedy trial rights. I think that there is an overwhelming amount of information we already know. The government is still, I think, trying to decrypt a lot of the terabytes of information that it received from all of P. Diddy's devices. So the government is going to be kind of like rushing a little bit. I understand that they're still getting subpoenas are being responded to still. So they don't even have all their evidence together yet. And so demanding a speedy trial really is going to force the government to get their act together really fast and not have that additional time. But I think that the government was also smart in not overcomplicating this case by making it much bigger than it needed to be, like for instance, what happened down in, y'all's neck of the woods in Atlanta with the YSL, RICO trial that's going on. So, you've got a much simpler, indictment, 14 pages long, really one identifiable victim, but I think that there's probably others that are contained within it. So we'll see if that May date sticks. If there's superseding indictments, it's probably going to get continued, I would think, because there's just, that would automatically cause that to happen.
Yeah, that takes me to my next question. Krista, we heard from Emanuela that there could be these supersite.
You might be wondering, what if they're hiding something? What if there's a cover-up? It's easy to fall into that trap, especially when it comes to celebrities. But let's be honest, if something this big were really going on, keeping it a secret would be nearly impossible.
On Justin Bieber's official catalog of music on his website, we put the song through an AI detection tool that determined that this song is actually likely to be AI generated. Additionally, for example, on this video that we just saw circulating on X, we found anomalies on the people's faces in the clip. You could see anomalies in the eyes, anomalies in the faces that don't even seem human, as well as what is allegedly P. Diddy's face. You can see anomalies in his thumb and his mouth. So all indications that this audio and video, of course, were generated using artificial intelligence. Yet another example of the downside of artificial intelligence, in this case for musicians and artists, as Bieber has yet to speak publicly about Diddy's arrest.
It does sound quite like Justin Bieber, Catalina. What are the other types of fake news that have been going around regarding the P. Diddy case?
Well, the other main claim going around the P. Diddy case is
celebrities don't operate in secret, and if there were high-profile arrest warrants out there, the media would be all over it. These are the kinds of stories the press loves to cover. So, the fact that you're not seeing it on credible news channels should tell you everything you need to know.
Mansion has underground tunnels that some even say are linked to the Playboy Mansion that is in the close vicinity. And this post, for example, seen over 9 million times on X, as this screenshot of an alleged CNN live broadcast is also going viral, saying that the underground tunnels were found at the home of the disgraced hip hop star. This CNN screenshot is, however, fabricated. It's already been debunked by Reuters, who contacted a CNN representative who said that this is a manipulated image and that this is not something CNN reported on. There are also no credible reports on the existence of these tunnels, although according to indictment documents, during the March 2024 raids on Combs' LA and Miami mansions, investigators found narcotics, firearms, and the most disturbing find, 1,000 bottles of baby oil, a finding that has also been subject to fake news, including this AI viral video going around, seen over 17 million times on this post, that users claim to be federal agents finding the 1,000 bottles of baby oil in Diddy's home. And finally, with the elections coming up, this viral picture of Kamala Harris that allegedly resurfaced of her with P. Diddy. Here's actually the original photo posted by Getty Images, where you could see that she was actually posing with Montel Williams and his daughter in 2001. And most recently, there's also this fake list created using artificial intelligence, as well as you could see pointed out by X, allegedly of the P. Diddy accomplices. It includes names such as Jay-Z, Beyonce, although this list was created using artificial intelligence. And even though this list is fake, the lawyer representing the victims in this case has recently declared that the names of accomplices that have not been revealed yet will shock the nation as we stand by for revelations.
Catalina, thank you so much for clearing all of that up for us. That's Catalina Marchand-Abreu joining us with tonight's Truth or Fake. Do stay with us. We'll be right back with more world news.
This whole fiasco is a good reminder to always question the sources behind sensational claims. Just because something looks official on YouTube or social media doesn't mean it's true. In fact, it's a common trick in the age of clickbait.